Hello, everybody. Mind's Eye Visual Guitar Method here. Once again, hello. Back again for another lesson. 2 in 1 week. Can you believe it? We are cranking over here. But that is partly because, hey, we need your help. But we'll get to that later. How about a lesson first? And maybe somewhat something more for the beginners. But I don't know. I think it'll have some cool information, and I also think we've got some rhythm to experiment with today too, which will be cool. So today's lesson is entitled, or not entitled, it's titled something like root to chord. And in today's lesson, it's going to be root to a dominant chord. Maybe I'll put that in the title too. Um, so like a kind of a lesson, a couple things showing. We're not going to do every chord, so you can see, get a starter with today's lesson and learn how to graph out your graphs for your own chords. Not that you probably don't get it already, but kind of really to elucidate chords and what you can think about when you are thinking about a chord. Kind of how should it go, and here are some. So, number one, when you have a chord, you have a root. And your root is the tonal gravity center. So, and it's a great place to go when you really need to, nail the change, is what someone would say. Or, you want to, you're on a beat that needs to elucidate a chord tone, especially if you're like playing jazz. And you have, I don't want to start like I'm teaching jazz or anything because I'm far from that point, very, very far. But as I understand it, you're typically playing like 8 notes for a chord, on beats. And typically your 1 and 3 are going to need some home references. And the outside stuff can fall in between. That's like to put it real simple without making this a jazz lesson or sound like I'm giving away some monumentous jazz secret, because that's basically beginners jazz concepts. But anyways, so chord tones are good for um, certain beats of the music, or just anytime you've been outside or away a little bit and you need to return to home base, your root, your gravity center. And sometimes you're going to want to think, okay, this is where the root of this chord is, but the bass player and the keyboard player are going to take care of that. What can I do on top of this? And that'll get into chord extensions and stuff in color tones, which we will kind of not go into in this lesson. Um, but we do want to know, like, so we're doing a major chord. So the next thing I'm going to want to know is where my major third is. But before that, um, my root. Someone says, "Hey, this chord is an F." Well, I want to think about a couple things when I think about. We're going to choose F today because it puts our root, our pathways in a good focus here. So that's why we chose F. Now, I want to think about not only where my roots are on the low string, but I want to see where they are on the high string too, which is going to be, obviously, we should know the same place. We get this in F, we get this nice square on the fretboard here. Now I need to open up another window, which I keep on forgetting to do when I start these lessons lately. Always on top. Let's put that there and give me back to my main screen. You guys can't see all that going on, but I can. All right, so our root, and then I want to know where our roots are on the other parts of the fretboard. I've had different visual ways of kind of picturing the root. I always kind of picture like this group here as one, and then and it's 3 notes right there, our low and high E, and then our note, our E that's on the D string, and then these 3 notes here as like two little constellations. That's how I first saw roots. But then I realized they're following the tritone row. If you put a note in between Obviously, there's a little skip in the because of the G and B string there. But anyways, that's the tritone, the flat 5. The actual halfway point of between the octave, and that's the octave. So it's kind of very interesting in a geometric way. You can see there is a geometric setup to the instrument, to a stringed instrument, when you tune it in fourths. It's like there's a crease in the music right here, so to speak. But that's getting a little abstract. Let's move on. So we have like these rows, and you can see these angular rows. There's 2 of them before you repeat back to the beginning. It's just like the tritone row does the same thing. You've seen that all throughout my lessons. When I connect my navigation squares, the square of half steps, a square meaning of notes on the fretboard, 4 notes in a cluster, it's following this pathway here. So, but that's all in a bunch of other lessons on the page. I'm going to assume that you are familiar with those and move on, or you'll go and watch them. So, I know my root is here, and then I got one here, so I got an F here. I'll turn this down a bit. I think it's probably a little loud for you guys. So you can see, like, we don't escape repeat tones until we really get here. We get that really high F. Back in that zone. And you can always just think about, this the octave until you have to jump these lower strings. It's a little bit wider. And then I also noticed that this way, if you think about it this way, it's kind of like an inverse relationship where to find an octave, like between like these 2 octaves, you skip a fret and skip a string, so there's like an evenness there. But if you're going this way backwards, you skip a fret and skip 2 strings. So it took me a while to get that when I was a new player. But if I was here and I wanted to know where that note is, it's going to be here. I wanted to just get it right. Anyways, but we're spending too much time on the root. Let me move on. The next thing I'm going to need, since we're dealing with a major chord, is where's my major third? And so it's kind of scattered all over the fretboard, but you notice it's in like the same pathway, and then you realize, well, hey, it's always connected to the root in this interval shape or pattern or whatever you want to call it. So if we're here at the 13th fret, that is a diad, and you got that everywhere until you get to the G and B string at fret number 10. We've got this. And the only ones that don't get a third relationship are these bottom E string. They don't get a neighboring third because, well, there's no lower string. You got to go up here to get that. Following the octave pattern down and getting it wrong and sliding right. So that's helpful to know. These are all the places you could quickly comp if a chord is flying by. It's a F major's coming and it's an F something fancy something or other. Well, at least you got this. You probably got this. And let's get on to what that is. That is the next most common interval you're going to want to know to create the triads. Right here we have a dyad, if you've ever heard of that, and it's a major dyad because we've got the major third, and incidentally the minor third is just always one fret below this one. For those that don't know it, somewhat of a beginner lesson here. Intermediates are probably clicking off this lesson by now because you know all this stuff. But then you have the fifth as the next one you want to understand. So root 3/5, and where's that on your fretboard? And so you can start to see here what appears is the caged system now. So now we have our full triads and things that we hopefully know. We just doing the D, G, and B strings. We have commonly, I know these, memorized these just a while back because this string set here, DGB, has 3 possible inversions of the chord, which we're going to see in a second, and then that leads to the larger cage shapes. So here, I'm in the, I know that is an F, it's really part of a larger bar chord. So that's the E shape, because that's an E-shaped chord. So we have the D next and caged. And that's, you can see here, brown root. You get a 5 root 3. So you can see how they're inversions too. So not only does this, understanding in starting your learning, seeing it simply step by step, you can start to clearly see, okay, so that's why these are called inversions, because now the blue note is on top. The blue note, the 3. The green note is the second one in, and the highest note in this case is the root. So, who knew you could do that, but that is absolutely possible and capable. And every time you have a note on this string, that's the note of the moment, maybe in a melody, and you want to turn that a little major, make that a major chord over the melody note. So in this case, and you can see them all right here. And so you've got, so from our root here, this is our E-shaped chord, that's E. This is going to be the root of our D-shaped chord. This is going to be the root of our C-shaped chord. You can see like everything is shared. So once you're playing the C-shaped chord, you're actually playing the root note of the A-shaped chord. If you flip your thinking and your fingering around and play this. And that same exact row there, being its own individual little chord, it's got the root, the 3rd, and the 5th, is actually expandable into the G-shaped chord. That was one thing that really sped up my learning on the guitar. Just started, stop having my brain stop perceiving everything is in some separate, all these little separate universes. Every universe is connected. So if you're in one room, you always have one foot in the next room. You always have a doorway and a clear, visible, look into the next room. If you think about it like that, in the way that, the A and the G shape are actually part of really the same larger structure. But there's a lot more fun to this, so let's keep moving on. Because we've got the basics here, which is really cool. So I hit a couple wrong notes there, and I could hear it, and I knew that I was probably just one short. And you work up to it, and if you go into it, it sounds like you're doing a little lead in, a kind of like a ramp up note or a step in, or whatever you want to, however you want to call it or conceptualize it. I knew that would sound good because the wrong note was leading right into the root note. And it's not necessarily really a wrong note. I just suggested that that is now part of our system, suggesting that that's a major 7 I played into the root. So that would, in theory, conceptualize this. Maybe we're playing something with a major 7. like a Ionian chord, like a major chord with that 7. Anyways, and 2 major chords do, one based off the 1 of the scale, one based off the 4, the Lydian. But the major chord based on the 5 has a flatted 7, so that's what we're going to use to go on to our next page here. So, because we have a big space here we want to fill. So notice that in between the green and the brown, there's quite a big space. So if we have a brown being our root, to our third, we really just have a step in there. And if we choose that middle note, it's going to probably have the most even sound. Let's check it out. Here's our F, the 8th fret of the A string. And we're going to go to the root, the octave, the 12th fret. As our, let's choose that middle note. And it sounds like a really, our volume keeps creeping up there. It's a very easy to move knob. Now we can lower that and see what happens. That middle note. Okay, we can give it more of a haunting sound. It was just like the sound to me, it got a little more negative as we went lower. Let's see what happens if we raise it up. Alright, so it got kind of weirder on that direction. Because you're playing a flat third and a regular third, and well, that is kind of weird because we're suggesting and that is a gonna be like a part of some super strange scale. Anyways, so the 2, 5, and the 1. We heard that before. Very common progression. All right, so some things like that are we. Oh, so what I was saying is, so like there we've got like a place to put a step in. It's pretty obvious. Between the blue and the green, we've only got 2 notes, so that becomes a simple choice. We've got the where are we there? Now that's a 3. The blue is a 3. The green is a 5. So what do we have in between a 3 and a 5? We have a 4s. We could consider that 4 and sharp 4, but it's most commonly 4 and flat 5. We're playing the 5, so we consider that a sharp 4, since we've got a 5 in our mix, in our basic idea. So let's play a regular 4. It's going to be the choice to the left, next to the blue square. And we can see, okay, that creates a step in between the blue and the green. Pretty cool. And it's a very logical step. It's got, I think, to me, so I start putting, you'll put your own spin on what you're hearing. To me, it's got some strength to it. And some like, that's a really good foundational note. It's like very logical. It's got a very pleasing sound to it. I imagine though, after a while, then that progression does remain in normal land and could get boring, so we might see if maybe the other, that sharpening the 4, will spice it up. Let's see what happens. Now you can see how those gut notes in between these triad notes are the character notes that really bring out different emotions. Because here, you just consider yourself, you have a basic you have a happy palette. It works for what it needs to do on its own. But we can strengthen its emotional output with a character note. Give it sense of normalness, predictableness, strength. I want to write a cartoon about some funny characters and call them the Simpsons. That's where everybody describes that they've heard that Lydian note get famous, because that's what makes that, gives the character to that scale. So you're adding in the Lydian note, and now you know how easily you can do that and where it's found and all that jazz. So, you know, once again, so we've gone basically all our options here except one. We've gone in between the 3 and the 5, between the root and the 3. What else is there? There's something between the 5 and the root, and as you can see here, well, it's kind of an odd number of, it's got the most notes in between it. So it seems like there's another chord tone that could probably fill in there. And where we find that is in our 7s. And those are the 2 intervals just before the root, a flatted 7 and a major 7. And then other than that, you have a sharper 5 and a 6, which could sometimes be called the flatted 6 and the 6. Okay, so here we go. So there we have it. If we add in a flat 7, now we put it 1 down from the root, and there it is mapped out onto our fretboard in our appropriate colors. Root for, you know, earth tone, our safe tone, but not something we always want to go to. So that, I think that's like the perfect color for a root, our gravity, our earth. Now we have our vegetation, you know, what goes well, you know, basically the next step to, you know, taking a rocky planet to somewhere is adding vegetation. But before that, you'd have to add an atmosphere. And that is the blue note here. You either have a nice clear blue sky, or we use like a lighter gray if we have a grayish blue if we've got a flat third to describe. And then the 7 is kind of like, you know, your outer space before you get back home. So I think it's just like the perfect colors here for my kind of what I'm sticking with for now for colors. We went over that in my last video anyways. So more now, you know, here's where the fun stuff happens. I guess I've been kind of delaying because now we've got this kind of so, you know, I just felt like I was telling a story with the chord there. You add in that 7, and now you've got places to play in between the root and the 5. You've got that 3rd and 7, and it's a fun situation because it's the tritone. Look at all there's so many cool things here. So for one, we could also consider that we have like this note here. There's a blue note. Our 3rd is right there. So if I make this a root and I just play this black, this blue, and this green, I get the jazz grip, commonly known, you know, when you want to have a the dominant 7th chord. I might think of this go-to chord really quick. Well, just today, while I was experimenting with this, I said, well, let me check out the inversions of this that I find that I'm seeing in here that I've really never played before. So here we have root, the 7, 3, and the 5. Now if I go down here, I could have a 7 in the bass here, and and it's a pretty simple bar of my first finger. Whoa, camera! Right here, so a bar, my middle finger to play the E string at the 10th fret, and then my fingers barring the 9th fret. We got, and I think that's a really pretty chord. It's got a lot of interest to it. Seems concerned, but ready to go to how. Let's play it with the. Okay, so I totally just shouted out fret numbers that were totally wrong because I was 1 fret down without paying attention. So my finger was barring the 10th fret, and my index or middle finger, sorry for all the confusion here that I keep shouting out wrong things, is playing the 11th fret. So the E flat, and the or D sharp, and the 5, 3. So the F there. Okay, so that's almost like a 2-chord vamp available with the same exact chord, just inverted. So I just thought that was really, really excellent. And you can play different inversions of that. You could play for like that. So I made a little thing just by running a little bass thing with my other fingers between the root, the third, doing a little thing, and then going back to the flat 7 and the third, and going back to the root while keeping this chord up top. Just cool things you can do. Arpeggios. I'm gonna start with the like a 2-1-2 pattern and see what I can do there. So let's start with the 11th and 13th fret, where we have the flat 7 and root. Play the blue, green, black, brown, blue, green. I just think that's really cool to whip off the fingers. Experimented with the putting a flat third in there and then returning to the third to kind of repair the tension or resolve that tension. Let's start with the green here where the plus sign is right there, and we'll just do green, black, brown. So we'll go per se. did something earlier, and I was trying to recreate it. I'll see if I can do it again. So I thought, that's somewhat of a not as playable, but it's kind of like a pentatonic in the way it starts. Wrong notes. Kind of like a pentatonic shape there. Let's try blue, starting from the blue, blue, green, black, brown. That's a neat little pattern up the fretboard there. We're going to start at the 5th fret and go. Sorry, the volume got cranked again. Really sorry about that, because personally I can't stand lessons where the guitar is much louder than the voice. So I'm very sorry about that. So here we go again. Well, I guess you had to be here when I did it, because it sounded a lot cooler then. So there was somehow I enclosed the note by accident, and it sounded really cool. And I had realized I'd done it. Here's a little thing here. I'm going to put a beat to this, and I think it'll awake some of this playing up. Notice this shape right here. There's like a little like a cross shape right here with the green. There's our chord right there, all 4 notes. Now, if you look at this, the brown, our root note right here, brown ground. There's another plus sign if you consider like a larger plus sign between blue, brown and blue, and then black and green here. And when I was playing it, I thought it sounded pretty musical. Here we go. Brought it back to the root there to end the line, to give some kind of semblance to my noodling there. All right, and then down below we'd have diamond, large diamond, Alright, so at the edge of the diamond, the large diamond, you have the bar here. You start connecting all the shapes with these ideas. And then, of course, you have the tritone row. It's like if you ride the tritone row, you're just in tension, but you take any of those tritone notes and play the other notes, and the green and the blue or brown are going to be your resolve. Let's hear it with some beats happening like I promised, and yeah, here we go. Pathways like that sound good to you. Right tone, So there's a couple things here that I thought to say. I'll get the drum to stop here in a second. Okay. So you got between this black and green right here, you got a cool little double stop here. Really cool. You can, and I just discovered that kind of by just playing the G and E string notes of the chord, and they ring out pairs on similar frets on those adjacent strings sound. I don't know if that's the right term there, but anyways, they sounds really good. The like blue and brown here, green and blue. And if you screw up, it sounds good to walk into them. Now, when we play the Lydian note that we talked about earlier, when we're between the blue and the green there, so let's say, for example, we are right here. Now that's the Lydian note for sure, but it's not going to be exactly part of the Lydian scale if we keep that dominant seventh in there. And so you say, oh, okay, so geez, that sucks because that's a wrong note. Well, not necessarily, because that dominant seventh is elucidating that we are now in a dominant type of scale. So, gee, what has the Lydian note with a dominant? Oh, Lydian dominant. Oh my gosh, our shortcut to this ultra confusing musical theory term, Lydian dominant, comes out of the harmonic minor. It's the blah 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 mode of that, this, that, and the other thing. You want a shortcut to it? Here it is. You got Lydian dominant. You can play the dominant arpeggio with the normally that would sound like. see what's left from there. And kind of here is where, you can, we want to know about the rest of our intervals. So we can know that when we've got a blue note, our 4 is there and our 2 is there. And that, tells us about everything else. Like, where's our flat 3? Well, it's in between the 2 and the 3. So you would know where that is. So, like, for example, so here's a blue, the major third here. But that doesn't sound minor, but it's because your ear is hearing that is the root 2 in the minor third. But if we play that in this context, so let's find a 5. Let's choose this one. We've got a sharp 4, where we just were in between the blue and the 5. Or on the other 5, well, the part we got a 6 just before the flat 7. So yeah, you could just, do that to know where all your intervals are. Your 2 is always going to be the one after the brown note, the root. So, yeah, this is just, another way you can learn to get through the your intervals. And I just saw this bunch of E's at the bottom here, and now it's bugging me. So, yeah, all right. That is the lesson today. Hope you enjoyed it. Before we, ramble on and go too crazy. And yeah, I mentioned something about the flat 5th there. That's found in between the I don't know. That's why I got the star there. Because the sharp 4, and we talked about that earlier. Sometimes the flat 5. Okay. So I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and I hope at the very minimum, because you enjoyed it, you'll say, all right, well, hey, I'll hit subscribe, because getting over 1,000 is one of our very first goals that we've been waiting for a very, very long time, like 5 years, long time. Okay, so, and I haven't checked. It's been growing. It's been close. I may be over 1,000, and I don't even know it. Okay, so I might also be a poet, and I don't even know it. Okay, that's really dumb. I am at a real crossroads here. I only have time to make this lesson today and set up the studio and get the background nice and do everything today because I am not working at the moment. I had an extremely strenuous installation job that wasn't paying what it promised. It had more impossibilities and extra work on top of what they sold the job as, and the pay wasn't there, so I couldn't keep doing it. It's gone now. And I'm looking at probably, just to pay the bills, getting back on the road as an expediter, which is maybe good financially, but that was very hard on my body. As far as sitting down all day is very, very bad for me. And it put me in the hospital last year. Through complications of the weight gain and the muscle loss from sitting down and driving nonstop all day, every day. All right, so, and all night too, and ruining my sleep schedule. So I'd like to avoid that too. You know how I could do that is if a small group of people were like, yeah, that was worth, that's like a $25, I'm getting as much out of this channel as I get paying my instructor once a week who's charging me $35 a lesson. That's, what kind of money is that per month? What if there's no subscription here or anything, it's all for free, but what if some people decided to throw some money in that tip jar? Maybe I can get my Patreon. I have a Patreon, but I have no idea how to really set it up with this, what I can offer yet. I'm just not clear on that. I'm probably better off making courses and selling those. That's going to take a lot of work, and I need to dive right into that. But of course, I'm not, as I'm trying to scramble. Am I looking for another job? And then there's just everything else you got to do every day, and so time is of the essence. So it's stressing me out and not allowing me to think clearly on path. What's my next path forward before everything completely shuts off and I'm homeless, because I'm down to the wire here. Is what I'm trying to say. So if anybody could think about the tip jar below, um, and ask some questions about what you need to know, what you'd like to see graphed out, or something like that. If it's something maybe gives me something to research or something like that. Yeah, let's hopefully people are here, hear my plea, and we can move forward from there. Shit, if I got as much as 800 or 900 people to give $1 a month, put $1 in that tip jar a month, I could probably maintain these lessons no problem. So I think that's a reasonable goal. So I'm asking people out there. I guess if I'm making this pitch and not doing the time, maybe you guys want to see me over here. Why give money to a guy, a t-shirt, you can't even see his face, right? So anyways, yeah, that would be it. Let me know if the improvements to the channel, the drums we can play, let me know if those things are happening. And, or what any suggestions you have for how to monetize this. Of course, I need to pursue also perhaps jobs in music in my local area. It's a very musical city. Shout out to Rick Beato. It's Rochester, New York. Woohoo! Right? I guess that's where he says he's from. And so there's lots of musical stuff here. Do I gig? I've like you guys gotta, like many of you out there, work out the get. If I had some real material I worked out that I could play as a set, and I've got all the capability. I've got loopers. I've got ways to do backing tracks. Do I do it? I don't know why I don't. I don't know why I don't. Somebody tell me to snap out of it and put a fire under my ass to do those things. So I do have some things to pursue musically, and I just remembered I was going to go to the local stagehands guild and see about being on trying to volunteer there, so I can eventually maybe make that a paid position too, being a roadie for bands. Okay, have a great night, everybody, or day, wherever you are. That was a weird assumption. And just kindly take that to heart if you think these lessons are effective and cool. If I've got a little neat niche here that helps you learn, then try to support the channel, because it perhaps may not last forever. All right, I'm gonna leave you guys with that. Thank you for watching. You guys have a great day. You're awesome, and we'll go from there. So see ya.